Hi Gavin, it's Rose McGowan from Charmed, Miss Page, and I think it's super cool you're doing a reading for Halloween from Charmed, How to Train Your Gavin. I think it's brilliant and silly and lovely, and as you said, not my comment, that's yours, but I think it's fantastic and a lot of people will love it, and so keep going, okay, sweetheart? Much love to you. Those Charmed books are awesome. I love that they keep the characters going. Take care.
Hello, Gavin. Wow, that sounds like a great idea. What a perfect idea. And also, I have to say, my two older sons really did love the dragon movies too, and I appreciated them as a parent because they were clever. So there is that. I did like them. But I hope your project goes well, and blessed be. Thanks for being an enthusiast. I'm glad that it still lives, and I hope it goes well for you.
Your friend the other day, heard you've been trying to reach me. Good luck with that. I threw my phone into the pool. There's no reason for your feelings. You knew the
hi everyone, welcome back to How to Train Your Gavin. I'm so sorry, I've just gotten lost in my library trying to find my Book of Shadows, but fortunately, blessed be, I managed to find it. In today's video, I'm doing something extremely fun because I get to revisit my favourite TV show of all time, Charmed, by reading some of the books that came out while the show was running. So as you can see, I have all of the Charmed books. I've had them for years. I collected all of these while I was a teenager. I got them mainly in the 3 for 2 offer in Waterstones when we used to do that in like the mid 2000s. So I've just been biding my time getting back into this world. It's been, gosh, a good 15 years since I read a Charmed book. And I think I might have read about half of these. And honestly, I don't think I can tell you exactly which ones I've read. But in today's video, I picked out 4 Charmed books that I want to read for the Summerween readathon. So if you do not know Summerween, it is a readathon hosted by Gabby from Gabby Reads and Liv from Olivia Reads a Latte. And essentially, it's just a readathon celebrating the upcoming spooky season because we cannot wait. We can't wait until October for it. So there is a list of prompts that you can follow in order to really get that Halloween spirit 3 months early. It is a readathon that I look forward to every year, and I thought actually very last minute that I would end up reading the Charmed books for Summerween. Here is a list of the prompts that I don't quite recall off the top of my head. I do think some of them will fit the Charmed books, but I think things like read a thriller might not apply. But unfortunately, I'm like this with the hosts. Okay, we're tight. We are so tight, so they let me off with anything. I could read and they would let me get away with it. It is also the witching hour right now. Summerween's just began in my time zone and I'm drinking coffee. But you know what? My sleeping pattern has been messed up since the dawn of time, so I don't care. If I don't get to sleep until like 6 AM again, then that is fine. So I actually did a poll last year asking which one would you rather see first, a vlog for Charmed or a vlog for Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and the majority voted for Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So I did do a reading vlog for Sabrina the Teenage Witch last year, so I will leave a link down below if you want to check it out. So this vlog is going to be dedicated to not just Summerween but to Charmed. Charmed ran on the WB from 1998 to 2006. It ran for 8 seasons and 178 episodes. Again, still my favourite show ever. I'm going to show you my Charmed collection later on. I'll go through all my Charmed books. books, the Charmed comics that I have, my Book of Shadows collection because I have 3, my DVDs and Blu-rays of Charmed, you know, just like everything, right? This is going to be a celebration of Charmed, because actually 2003 was the year that I began watching Charmed, which was 20 years ago this year. So it's my 20th anniversary for joining the Charmed bandwagon. I've probably mentioned this story so many times, but I remember there was a double episode of Charmed on. In the UK, it used to air on Living TV, and they used to air 2 episodes back to back every day. The first ever episode I watched was the Banshee episode. Following that was the season 3 finale. Now, spoiler alert for anyone who doesn't know, but the season 3 finale was when Prue Halliwell died, which honestly kind of went over my head a little bit when I first watched it, and I wasn't sure what the hell was going on, but I digress. That was the beginning of my Charmed obsession, and I remember season 5 was airing in the United States when I got into the show. So happy 20th anniversary, my darlings, to myself. So I've picked 4 Charmed books that I want to read in this video. I have read a couple of them before, but it has been about 15 to 20 years since I last read them, so I definitely need a reread. But these are the 4 books that I want to read for this video. And because I'm reading these for Summerween, I wanted to try and pick the spookiest Charmed books that I could find. Even though I don't believe any of the Charmed books were that spooky, I did my best. So the first book that I'll be reading is Soul of the Bride. This is a book that features Prue. There were only 10 Charmed books released with Prue as a main character, and I've already read all of the Prue books. I remember starting from beginning to end, and I remember reading this one specifically. I remember taking it to my cousins on Christmas Day, and I got teased by my cousins for liking Charmed, and I was trying so hard to sit and read in peace, but yeah, they were just making fun of me the entire time. I was a little bit antisocial, I'll give them that. But I remember loving this book, so let's say if I end up loving it on a reread. Then I will be reading Between Worlds, and this one features Paige, and I believe I have read this one too, and I believe this was one of my favourites. Again, I can't really quite remember. I do have a Charmed video that I made back in 2021, so give that a cheeky little watch if you want. Then I have Hurricane Hex. I think this is probably going to be quite thrillery because of the whole like natural disasters thing in it. I don't know, there was a prompt in Summerween for read a thriller, and I think maybe this will be the closest thing to it. And then finally, I'm going to be reading Trickery Treat. I don't believe I ever read this one. This was the very final published Charmed official book in the Charmed tie-in TV series book series. And I believe this was the final one released in 2008. And I don't think I ever read it. But this one is set during Halloween, so that is one of the main reasons why I've decided to pick it up for this video. So there we have it. Those are the 4 Charmed books that I'm going to attempt to read this week for Summerween. I'm so excited to get my Halliwell on. And in true Charmed fashion, we can't start off this vlog without reading a cheeky little spell from the Book of Shadows, am I right? Cast your minds back to the very first episode of Charmed, Something Wicker This Way Comes, where Phoebe Halliwell goes up into the attic of Halliwell Manor. It's raining, it's thunder and lightning, and she comes across this book, the Book of Shadows, and she opens it up and she sees the title page, Book of Shadows. She's a little bit confused because no one's ever been able to get into the attic for years, but you know, she's intrigued. She continues on. She turns the page to find a spell that will give her and her sisters the power of 3.
Hear now the words of the witches.
The secrets we hid in the night. The oldest of gods are invoked here.
The great work of magic is sought.
In this night and in this hour,
I call upon the ancient power.
bring your powers to we sisters 3.
We want the power.
Give us the power. And now we can start our Charmed journey. Blessed be.
Tonight, a special presentation of the new WB hit series that has everyone charmed. Now, the WB presents Shannon Doherty, Holly Marie Combs, and Alyssa Milano in a special presentation of Charmed.
Okay, please don't judge me. It is the next morning. I was reading until 4 a.m. I haven't been in the shower yet. I need to change my clothes. But this is what happened. This is the side of me that you never really get to see. I got myself a McDonald's breakfast. And a nice latte. And that's not why you clicked on this video. You didn't click on this video because you wanted to know what I do first thing in the morning. I finished Soul of the Bride at like 4 a.m. I think it was. And I had an absolute blast. Now, book TV show tie-ins aren't always the best. And when I was reading the Sabrina books, a lot of the times it just didn't feel too much like the characters, and they were a little bit harder to get into. Some of them were good, some of them weren't. And obviously the same can be said for the Charmed books. Some of them will be fantastic, some of them won't be. And it's really hard because what makes Charmed is the actresses and how they act and talk and the way they come across on screen is what makes Charmed. So even though there were parts of this where I was like, I don't really see Prue, Piper or Phoebe saying that, at the same time I'm pretty sure I would say that about a transcript of an episode while I'm just reading it, and then as soon as like Alyssa Milano is acting it out, she makes it Phoebe, you know? Soul the Bride was so fun, and while I was reading this, I was transported back to when I read it when I was younger. There was a certain scene that I totally forgot about, but as I was reading it, I could remember where I was when I read it. So I'll tell you what that scene was in a minute. But this book, it follows all three sisters. The Hallowell sisters, the Power of Three, the Charmed ones, powerful witches in San Francisco. And in this one, Prue, who works for 415 magazine, she is given the opportunity to do a cover, and she can pick the theme, she can do whatever she wants for it if she gets a good enough idea. So Prue ends up coming up with the idea of, well, actually, it's a bit of an odd idea, not gonna lie. I don't know how it relates and ties to each other. So she's doing a feature on San Francisco's Victorian architecture, right? But she is going to get everyone to dress like Greek gods and goddesses. Right, I love the idea of the whole Greek gods and goddesses and the mythology that is brought into this. But I don't understand how Prue, or like how this is even going to work. Like Victorian architecture, Greek gods and goddesses. I don't see the correlation. Maybe I'm just being dumb. Maybe there is more connecting them than I think. But I'm not saying it's a detriment to the story by any means, because I love the actual story of this. So Phoebe meets a guy called Nikos, and he is like this gorgeous model type Greek god looking person. And she falls for him pretty fast and easy, which sounds very Phoebe-esque. So at least that's very true to her character. And when Prue's setting up this photo shoot, Phoebe has the idea of getting Nikos to be a model for it. And there are other models doing the Greek gods and goddesses. But they come to Hallowell Manor, they go to the sunroom, and they're going to take the picture. Now Nikos has brought this really old vintage camera that is extremely old, and Prue's like, oh, that's amazing, I can use this for the photo. So Prue uses it for the photo, but when she takes the photo, all of the models faint and they go into this deep slumber. And even though Phoebe and Piper are both in the photo too, they're not asleep. All the while there are these like Greek mythological creatures coming out of the camera. So we had a Hydra, we had Cerberus, and we have a Harpy. So obviously something fishy is going on. And I, again, love all of that so much. They realized that the reason why Phoebe and Piper didn't fall asleep was because they are witches, whereas everyone else are mortals. So they cast a spell. It's a bit of a shit spell, not gonna lie. They cast a spell to make them mortal, and then they're going to take a photo so that they can also fall into the same deep slumber and hopefully save the innocents. So the spell is, for an instant may we be ordinary mortals three, take us where we want to go, then back to our powers let us go. I don't know, I'm not the biggest fan of that spell. I won't go into everything that happens in this book because, again, I don't want to spoil too much in case you do want to give it a read yourself. Hopefully this has just enticed you to pick it up, because I remember this being one of my favourite Charm books, especially out of the Prue books when I was younger. So yeah, they end up going to this world where the models have been taken, and they see this river, and this is when, yeah, all my memories came flooding back. There is a river and there is a ferryman, and I believe he's called Charon, and the Hallowell sisters have to get into the boat and cross this river. And I remember that so vividly. I remember that after all of these years, as soon as I started reading that scene, I was like, flashbacks. It was like I had a premonition myself, except it was set in the past, where I read this and I was at my aunt's house on Christmas Day reading it. I remember it so well because I just love that so much. So this is like so good. So good. If you like the whole Greek mythology angle of it, then I think you would also love it. And I could definitely see this being a Charmed episode. I believe there was an episode where there was a camera. I think it was in the final season, actually. So yeah, I need a full rewatch of the entire show. But also, I didn't want to highlight my copy of this because it means so much to me. But I did underline in pencil. So there's that. I mean, I don't mind writing in my books these days, but this is like such an old book now, and it's just part of my childhood. And I loved it when Phoebe was talking to Piper and Prue about who her and Nikos could be. And Phoebe says, I can be Hera and Nikos can be the other one. What's his name? Zeus, Piper said dryly, is in the King of the Gods. Yeah, him, Phoebe said absolutely. It'll be perfect. That kind of humour, like, it was playing in my head and I could just see Alyssa Milano act that out, you know, because, like, sometimes she could be like, yeah, him. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you have to be into Charmed to get the humour of the characters. And I just feel like sometimes this book really nailed it. Other times it didn't 100%, but that's fine. It wasn't going to be perfect. But I just had so much fun yet again reading this. I also love seeing, like, this whole, like, Roswell High book thing at the end too. Because obviously there was always books for a TV show back in that day. I don't know what Fialis was though, so I can't really speak to that. But yeah, Charm Beware What You Wish, the final pro book. So yeah, I finished my first book for Summerween, which is a book I read in the dark, so I can tick that prompt off. Because yeah, it was around about 1 a.m. till 4 a.m. I was reading it. So now I could just like actually like wake up and go in the shower and get myself all looking presentable. And maybe after the break I can show you my Charmed collection.
And now, our Charmed Full Night event continues.
Let's watch Wizards during the break. We haven't done that much, to be honest with you. Because life is very busy. But like, we watched the Halloween episode. That's the one.
You were dressed
You
as
were
Spider-Man.
that's right. Jennifer, you were there.
This is where I keep my Charmed Blu-rays and DVDs. The DVDs I got when I was a kid and they were getting released. These were so expensive. I'm pretty sure they were about £50 per DVD set. But I have all 8 seasons. I got most of them for my birthday or for Christmases. And gosh, they are just such a blast from the past. I don't think I've opened this in years. But yeah, they have the Charmed discs, the episode guide, and honestly I was just totally and utterly in love and obsessed with Charmed. If I wasn't recording the episodes on VHS tape, I was begging for the newest season on DVD, but my parents could only do so much, you know. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh my god, I got such fond memories of all of these. I remember buying the final season in Woolworths when that came out, and I got it on my birthday. I used my birthday money to get it myself. And then I also have the Charmed Blu-ray box set, which you can't get this box set anywhere. It was custom made. And you can buy the Blu-rays, you can get all of the Blu-rays, but they just don't come with slipcovers or anything. But I got this custom made box set with custom made slipcovers and things. Let's have a look at season 2. So yeah, we've got the slipcovers, which someone made. I believe they were on Facebook. It was a seller on Facebook just making and selling these custom made Charmed things. I mean, you can buy the Blu-rays. You can buy the Blu-rays online, but I wanted the set to match. What can I say? And I think season 3 might be my favourite, honestly. And the person who made it as well has a little episode guide too for all of the seasons, all of the discs. Amazing. A totally superficial purchase, but it really is my pride and joy. So here is my nostalgia nook. I've got the big Book of Shadows, the mini Book of Shadows, and I do have another Book of Shadows behind there. That was my first ever Book of Shadows, but it was blank, and I filled it in myself. And I have all of the Charmed books there. I believe there's 44 of them, as well as the season 9 comics and 1 season 10 comic. The season 10 comics are so hard to get hold of. I believe they're really expensive or just not available at all. So I don't know if I'll ever complete my Charmed season 10 collection. But you know what? I have one. I have volume 3. Volume 3. I don't even have 1 and 2. I have volume 3 of season 10. But that's fine. I don't mind too much. I did have the Power of 3 guides as well. I believe there was a volume 1 and a volume 2. I don't know where they've gone, so I might have to invest in getting those again. But at the minute, I'm happy with the way it looks. So happy with my little Charmed collection. These are my oldest books in this library, and I just absolutely adore them with my whole heart.
Our full night of Charmed will continue on the WB Thursday.
Okay, I think I'm just living in my messy hair era. I'm not gonna lie, I just feel like I've got no energy. Like, my energy's all been zapped away. I think it's a demon. I think it's a demon. I need to go vanquish it. but I don't know how. I don't know where. Leo! Actually, that is a good little segue into this cheeky little book, Between Worlds, which is set during Halloween, which obviously you can kind of tell from the cover there. And this will also fit the prompt in Summerween. I believe... Oh, hang on. See, I'm on the floor again because I just can't be bothered. I read a book with orange or black on the cover, and there's like a nice orange moon here. I just love this colour scheme. Orange and green. This is beautiful. Like, I love this cover so much. And like, this is like season 5 Charmed, and you can really, actually, I say season 5 Charmed, I think this is probably more like set during like season 4 characters, because the way that Leo and Cole, who remembers Leo and Cole? I know I do. Oh god, honestly, I had big crushes on them growing up. Seriously. Cole though, oh my god. Oh my god, Cole, Julian McMahon, oh my god. But Cole is in this and he helps the Hallowells, so I think this is more like set during season 4. And one of the things that, while I do love Charmed, I will always sing its praises. There were some things about it that were a little bit convenient, or there was just like a lot of repetition in certain story beats. So usually we find out about a big bad, or that something bad's happening, from Leo. He comes down and tells the Hallowell sisters about some big bad that's going on from the elders. And then the charm ones are like, oh, let's go to the Book of Shadows, let's see if we can find anything. And then sometimes Cole will just walk straight in and be like, I know who it is. So that kind of happens a little bit-ish in this one. So it genuinely did feel like a Charmed episode, because I think it used quite a few of those tropes from the TV show. But saying that though, I love the fuck out of this. I, again, thought it was so good, and definitely, again, from what I remember, one of my favourites from when I was younger. But this one, actually, the very first chapter is a woman who is mourning the loss of her loved one, and she was in love with him for years and years and years, but he passed away a year before, and she decides that she's going to try and bring him back with a spell. But the spell doesn't go right, and she ends up becoming a wraith. As a wraith, she is trying to unlock the keys in the land of the living, and these keys are kind of more like portals, where she is burning them down for her own gain. I won't go too much into what she's doing it for, why she's doing it, like the implications of that, the consequences of that, or anything like that. But it did feel like, because we had this first chapter, we have this isolated incident where something goes awry, and then chapter 2 starts with the Hallowell sisters. So it felt like going between chapter 1 and 2, it was like the theme song of Charmed was playing in my head. You know, you have that opening segment, and it goes, do-do. I am the sun, you know that? It does the like original theme song, and then it goes into the shots of San Francisco, and then the Hallowells at Hallowell Manor. So it felt like it was playing in my head, so I really enjoyed that. I don't think there was anything glaringly wrong with this, or anything really noteworthy to pick out of. Unlike Soul of the Bride, I thought there were some moments that I could pick out and like be like, oh, that's so funny, that's an iconic moment, things like that. This one was more like, I feel like it played a little bit safe by working on those very convenient Charmed conventions and presenting us a story that could be a Charmed episode. So what I like about, say, Soul of the Bride, it was a little bit outrageous. I don't think Charmed would ever have the budget. Oh, hello, Ash. Do you want to say hello to the camera? Look, here's my familiar Ash. Hi, Ash. I should have called you Kit. Should have called you Kit. Oh, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I don't think Charmed ever had the budget for the Soul of the Bride book. Hiya, Tobu. Do you want to say hello as well? Hiya, Tobu. Hello, booty man. Honestly, the stars of the show, stars of the episode, interrupted me again. What was I saying? Yeah, I don't think, this is the third time I've tried. I don't think Charmed ever had the budget to bring Greek creatures to life out of a camera kind of thing. Like, I feel like that was a more big budget thing. But what I love about the Charm books was sometimes they did explore ideas that wouldn't have been possible to have presented to us in a Charmed episode. So that's why I like really love Soul of the Bride. But yeah, I feel like Between Worlds, as much as I love it, I think it was playing it a bit safe. But honestly, still such a good book. 201 pages, I was through it like this. Honestly, this has given me life, you know, revisiting the 90s and 2000s and just, oh, it's just such a great era. They don't make shows or books like this these days, do they? Honestly, TV show tie-in books, oh, just so good. So I do still have a couple of books left. I want to read Hurricane Hex because this looks like it's season 6. And I don't think I've read Hurricane Hex before, but I did read the previous 2 before when I was younger. But I believe Hurricane Hex, this is the first time I'm reading it. Watch me get halfway through and be like, oh wait, no, I have read this. But I'm hoping tomorrow I can try and leave the house, maybe go and read in a cafe. The weather has been absolutely miserable though, so every single time I've been wanting to like, oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to explore and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It then ends up pouring of rain and I decide not to. So fingers crossed, let's pray for a charmed miracle. And yeah, it'll be nice to actually leave the house. You would think someone cast a spell and trapped me inside.
You're watching the 2-hour premiere of Charmed on the WB's Big Sunday.
When I saw you walking down that hill, head high and shoulders back, watching you was such a thrill. All that I could do was laugh. I couldn't hold it back. I couldn't hold it. I couldn't hold it back. We were running on that open shore. No saddle on his back. I never felt so free before. All that I could do was laugh. I couldn't hold it back. I couldn't hold it. I couldn't hold it back.
So the good news today is that I did manage to leave the house and go to the cafe that's not too far from where I live. If you've seen some of my videos before, you will know, because I've been there quite a few times now, that there is a renovated church down by, well, near where I live, and it used to be a church, it's now a cafe, and it's really, really nice, and I love visiting, so I usually do quite a bit of B-roll whenever I go, and you guys are probably sick of seeing the same thing over and over again. Bad news is, one, I read Hurricane Hex. It weren't great. Two, last night, oh my god, there was a huge fight down the bottom of my street where 5 police cars had to, is this falling down? Where 5 police cars had to come and break the fight up. There was shouting, screaming, glass smashing. Me being the typical British bloke, I was listening on everything. I had the window open, trying to hear what they were arguing about. But it was awful. It sounded awful. But that did happen at 2 a.m. 2 a.m. It was a bit of a struggle because I was like so tired today. But I did still manage to go and enjoy myself this morning. But because I was up so late, I was having these thoughts like, Prue died when she was 31 in the TV show. I'm 31. And just having thoughts like that at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Not great. Not great. So the cafe trip really did help. And also, do you like my shirt? I was obviously obsessed with Rose McGowan when I was younger. You know, first she was in Scream, Tatum Riley, one of my favourite ever films of all time. And then she was in Charmed. Although I did know her from Charmed first, then I watched Scream, and the obsession pretty much started. I do have the Summerween 2023 merch. I have the shirts. I got 2 shirts, 2 different shirts, and they have come. But the first day they arrived, I wore my sand one and I accidentally slopped on it. I accidentally slopped sauce on it. So I had to clean it, except when I put it in the washer, the stain didn't come out. So, you know, I've given it to a professional. Given it to my mum. Given it to my mum to try and get the stain out. So it's with her currently, and I did get another one which is also with her too. So Summerween's gonna end, and I bought the merch and everything, and I'm not gonna have a chance to wear it at all in this video. I'm so gutted because I love Rachel's design of the Summerween 2023 look. Anyway, I have, yes, finished Hurricane Hex. Didn't love it, and I read this one for read a thriller for the Summerween prom because, you know, when I think of a thriller, I think it just means something that's exciting, right? A really exciting plot. Doesn't exactly have to be murder or crime. Usually it does. Usually you do associate like that. But like a thriller is like exciting and fast paced, and I thought Hurricane Hex would be that for me because it's a hurricane. But no. So essentially Paige gets a call from her best friend from college's husband, and they invite her to go to Florida to see them, and it's during hurricane season. So it's just like, why are you going to visit Florida during hurricane season? They go to Florida, and like nothing really happens. It's essentially quite a lot of this marriage between Sharon and Ben, and I didn't really care about them because they're just like book characters. They're not TV show characters that were just thrown in here, and they do have some friends that do tie into the plot a bit, but we had no Hallowell Manor, no Book of Shadows, and the whole magical side of this was so non-existent. So I'm not going to spoil the main thing of this, but it did remind me a little bit of Animal Pragmatism with some of the elements of the story. And like, say the whole hurricane thing, there is this story or this legend that's mentioned at, well, near the start of this book, where there was a highway and the government built over some graves on this highway, and people believe that a lot of the hurricanes that happen are caused by these spirits, these restless spirits and stuff like that. So there were just so many great possible avenues to take this book, and I just didn't like where it ended up going. And it was just so anticlimactic. There wasn't like really a demon to fight. There wasn't really any exciting ways of using powers. In fact, the only powers really to be used was Phoebe's for the premonitions, but it was so dull. And actually most of this book is just spent preparing for this hurricane. And again, like, while that in theory sounds rather exciting for the context of the story, because we never had that kind of storyline in Charmed, there was never a hurricane. There wasn't Desperate Housewives, which was my like second favorite show of all time, but this whole tornado angle of it was just so boring. It just wasn't magical in the slightest. In fact, the characters came across as a little bit dumb, including our charmed ones. They just didn't really seem to be all that authentic to their TV counterparts. So unfortunately, like, this was like such a bust of a book. Definitely one of my least favorites, and I just hate a boring charm book. I was talking to my friend Adam, and we used to read these charm books together. We would buy them together, and we would watch and talk about charm together. And he reminded me that this other charm book called Truth and Consequences was a boring book, which he's absolutely right. But this is just like down there with Truth and Consequences for being a bad and boring book. Judging by the title, you would not think that. So unfortunately, not great. But I will still tick it off on the prompt list for read a thriller because I was expecting something a lot more thrilling. Okay, the sun's come back out. The weather's been so odd lately. It's been so odd. Probably witchcraft. But it's great actually because I think now I can show you my Book of Shadows collection because I'm such a nerd. I'm such a charm nerd. I did mention before that I have 3 Books of Shadows, and I actually have, well, I did when I was younger try and draw my own pages in like a really crappy looking journal. I don't know where that is. It's probably at my mum's house. Otherwise I would show you my terrible drawing skills. But also another side note as well is I used to collect the pages from the Charmed magazine. I do also have a collection of all the Charmed magazines that came out, and I was in 2 of them. I managed to get myself in 2 of the Charmed magazines, and all of my magazines are at my mum's house as well. But I did used to collect the pages from the magazine itself, and honestly this was my favorite part, collecting the magazine, and I really do wish that they had have released more. I don't think they released enough. What was it, like 47, 48 pages or something? But yeah, they did not release enough of those pages. And then my oldest Book of Shadows is this one. I don't know where I got it from. I got this back in, I want to say 2005, 2006. And I would just print off my own pages in this. So it's not like an official one. I mean, there's a lot of blank pages in there because I was planning on filling them in. So yeah, I would just print these off myself, and I just never really completed it, to be honest. I did also want to try and age the pages myself with tea and stuff, but I just never got around to doing that. And I used to get a lot of these Book of Shadows pages from a lot of forums. I was part of so many Charmed forums back in the day, and I met so many amazing Charmed fans over the internet. It's been like, what, 18 years since I like really joined the forums and met so many people. It was an honestly great time. And then I got this mini Book of Shadows replica from Prescott Manor. Unfortunately, Prescott Manor have been shut down and they haven't been in operation for a good few years. I was saving up for one of their life-size replicas because they have, still to this day, the best Charmed replicas ever. I don't know what it was about them, but they just made it so authentic and so brilliant. And at the time I could only afford a mini one. I think this was around about £100. But I was saving up for a life-size one for years and years and years. And then once I was like near enough my goal to buying one. I mean, one, they did used to sell out pretty quickly. But two, they ended up getting shut down, I think by CBS, which is honestly so heartbreaking because I just always wanted one of their replicas. And yeah, it's just never going to happen now unless somebody sells theirs on eBay, which I don't think I'm going to get now because I do have my own. But yeah, this is filled with all of their replica pages inside, which is honestly incredible still. It is all of the Book of Shadows, so all of the pages are there. It's just a mini one, essentially. And I do love it. I honestly do love it. It's still my favourite Book of Shadows, even though I do have a different replica. I still think this is like my favourite one to this day. It's just, it's so authentic. It's so authentic. I just wish it was life-size. I think this is my favourite Charmed item ever. So I love it. I'm glad I managed to get this before Prescott Manor shut down. And then finally, I do have this life-size Charmed replica, which I do love. Don't get me wrong, I do love. I only got it a few months back, and I will leave a link to the website down in the description box where I got it from. And I will say though that I do feel like a lot of the pages look a bit printed. Like you can tell it's kind of printed, and I'm gonna, you know what, I'm gonna get you to my kind of crotch area, I think. It is massive, but I feel like you can kind of tell a lot of the pages are printed. And I do think it's missing quite a lot of pages too, that, like, I feel like this is the definitive. There are so many pages in here, even pages that were only mentioned and never seen on the show. But this one I feel like misses even a couple of pages from the actual show. I couldn't really exactly tell you which ones they are. And some of the pages like this, like you can tell it's kind of a different kind of printed. It's a little bit streaky. Looks like the ink's kind of come through and smudged a bit, you know, things like that. It just, I do love it though because it feels like the Charmed book. And then you do have the dark pages, which some of them feel so smooth, as in like it is like a normal printed page. And then other ones, they are like crinkly. But like this feels very smooth. This one feels crinkly. You just got like a really different quality to it. And I'm not shitting all over it. I do still love it. It's still great. I love that we still have the Balthazar pages, which is like so iconic from the TV show, and just like the actual printed out like photographs being put in there too. One of my favourite pages is actually the Banshee page, because again, this was my first ever episode of Charmed and probably started my obsession with the Book of Shadows. So yeah, still super awesome, so nice to flick through and get reminded of the TV show. I don't know how to change around the pages because I'd love to put the to move ahead in time spell next to the return spell. I would. Still a super amazing Book of Shadows, and it feels great. And because I've been wanting a life-size Book of Shadows for a good 20 years now, ever since I started watching the show, and it does feel great to finally have one. I want that Prescott Manor one so bad. So bad. And I really just bought this one because I thought, oh, you know, I can stop looking after all of these years. I can finally move on. I can finally move on with my life. But there's still a part of me that's like, bitch, you're going to be looking for an authentic Book of Shadows replica for the rest of your life.
The season finale of Charmed, Sunday on the WB.
I was just browsing through my channel last night, right, trying to pinpoint when I started Summerween, and I totally forgot that the first ever Summerween I did was back in 2021, and I was in the process of moving house, like into this house. While I got the keys during that vlog, I didn't officially move in until after Summerween, so it's not really my anniversary moving in just yet. But I was rewatching that vlog, and I barely mentioned Summerween to begin with. Because I was moving, I could barely read for it. And I ended up reading The Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury and The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. In damn, it's like, it feels like such a special and weird time. The amount of reflection I've been doing recently and like the things I've been going through mentally, it's weird to see a time capsule of it, and for Summerween as well to be part of that is just, God, insane. Absolutely insane. But it's weird as well to watch a vlog that's 2 years old. The picture quality is not great, the audio quality is not great. Seeing my old, or at least my mum's house, like she still lives there, but like seeing my old bedroom, my old library, oh my God, my old library was awful. To see where we are now, 2 years later, and my third Summerween, it's just incredible. So incredible. So anyway, yeah, while I've been in a bit of a reminiscent mood, especially since as well I've been reading Charmed, which does take me back, you know, it takes me back to my early teens, and time's just moving on. It's just, ugh. Anyway, let's not be sad. Well, because one, I'm having wine tonight and watching some Charmed episodes with my patrons, and two, because I finished what is probably my final full read of Summerween. I am going to try the graphic novel prompt as well. I think I didn't mention this at the start of the vlog, but there is a graphic novel prompt that I can fulfill by reading maybe the season 9 volume 1 graphic novel maybe. I've already read it, but like I haven't read it in like 10 years or something, so that'll be interesting, I think. And I might have time as well before my patron Charmed watch along tonight. Anyway, Trickery Treat did have a lot of the Halloween vibes that I was looking for, so I'm so happy about that. Wasn't a great book, honestly. I was finding myself a little bit annoyed at times because I felt like the author was trying to do a lot of fan service by mentioning so many events that happened in the past in Charmed, like in the TV show. Just one after the other, after the other, after the other, was just constantly, especially in the first few chapters, it was just like so random at points too. There was a moment in Paige's POV. Oh, where is it? This is why I should probably use a highlighter and not pencil, because now I can't find it. But there was a part where Paige was like having an internal monologue, and then it goes into something that happened when it was Prue, Piper and Phoebe, and Paige wasn't even there for it. And it was just a random insertion of a past event. It's almost like the author's like, ha, look at me, I've been watching the show. Who wrote this actually? Diana G. Gallagher. And she's usually pretty great at writing these TV show tie-in books, because she did a few Sabrina books. I'm sure she's done other books too. Like, that name is very popular and very well known in like TV show tie-in books world, but it was just far too much. And also like some really careless mistakes. Like there were a couple of times when Coop, who is Phoebe's husband now, was referred to as Cole, which was definitely a typo, but it was so overlooked. And Cole was, you know, like Phoebe's ex. So I just found it bizarre that there were so many oversights and just so much forced inclusion of past Charmed events. Anyway, the whole plot of this book is the fact that we have this Halloween party that the Hallowells are throwing in their manor, and Paige is like conversing with like the leprechauns and getting the leprechauns to come, which is, I never really loved the leprechauns that were brought into Charmed, like ever. So it was a bit of an odd thing to include in this too, even though they did have some relevance to the plot as well, because when Paige brought them over, she also accidentally brought like some spirits into the house of Hallowell Manor, and they caused a little bit of havoc with a lot of the party guests. But there was just some like odd things too, like a random person off the street comes into Hallowell Manor and starts talking about EMF readings and doing some like paranormal investigations in the house, which honestly I have been doing myself. I literally did one last month in 30 East Drive. Like, I totally get all of the references, but it was weird that we have these three witches, these three sister witches, who have been doing this for about 8 years, and they just let the stranger who has wandered in their house for the Halloween party, like, talk to them so much about EMF readings and ghosts and the fact that she's been monitoring the house for years and stuff like that. It felt like it was out of nowhere and a bit weird and a bit strange. So I wasn't really a big fan of like how forced a lot of the story had to be in order for some things of it to work. I did think though that the Halloween vibes were absolutely perfect though, and it was such a shame that Charmed itself, the TV show, didn't do more Halloween episodes. The season 3 Halloween episode is like one of my favorites, and the season 8 episode I can barely remember. I think I only ever saw it a couple of times, but I do need a rewatch of that. So I will at one point. But there should have been more Halloween episodes. You know what? It should have been like Sabrina. How Sabrina had like Halloween episodes every season almost, and Christmas episodes. Such a missed opportunity not to have a Christmas episode for Charmed. But anyway, this was definitely better than Hurricane Hex. Yeah, even Leo brings up a random Wendigo encounter that happened in season 1. Just out of nowhere. And Leo is oh, anyway, that's me rambling. I'm not rambling, okay? I've already said the point. But it was still pretty good in terms of the Halloween spooky atmosphere. So I'm glad I can tick off the... What prompt was this for again? Oh yeah, read a book that takes place in the fall. So that is 4 out of the 5 prompts. I'm smashing Summerween. And I'm wearing my old Winterween shirt as well because I still don't have my Summerween shirts off my mum, which is fine, honestly. I don't want to rush her. And onward we go with Summerween, and I may end up finishing a day early.
On the last episode ever of Charmed, unbelievable series finale of Charmed, next Sunday at 8/7 Central on the WB.
Every guy I've met, we fell in love at a bad time. Getting insecure, questioning myself on the way down. Now I'm so tired of breathing underwater. I just wanna float like a ship made out of paper. Right now I need to take care of myself, comfort in myself, like a roller coaster. One week I am up, next one I'll be down, but I'm getting closer to a stronger me, feeling free, like a roller coaster. One stronger me, feeling free, like a roller coaster.
Oh man, I am so sad that Summerween is coming to an end. If only I could freeze time and make it last longer. Or wait. Thanks, B. Just finished my Charmed watch along with my patrons. We did watch the first 2 episodes, which were Something Wicked This Way Comes and I've Got You Under My Skin. We had so much fun. They've convinced me to continue this Charmed watch along for the next year because we're going to be watching 2 to 3 episodes of Charmed a week over on Patreon. So if you want to join, I do have a link down in the description box. But they convinced me that we're going to watch the entirety of Charmed together. So I'm really excited. I mean, they didn't have to convince me too hardly. It's Charmed. I will jump at any chance to rewatch it. And I haven't watched it from start to finish. Gosh, in so long. So it's actually going to be like really nice to dive back into. But rewatching the first 2 episodes was just so incredible. Honestly, I love it with everything I have. The first episode itself is such a comfort. I've seen the first episode a million times. I just love everything about it. And I mean, I don't need to do a review for you guys, but it's just such a fantastic episode. So we had such a blast watching those 2 episodes. So we're definitely going to continue. It's going to be every Thursday, I think, or at least I'm going to try and stick to every Thursday and just continue the Charmed hype. But I did manage to finish the Charmed Season 9 Volume 1 comic before my live show, and I still enjoyed this a lot. I remember when I first read it and I was just so excited to dive back into this world. This is set years after Season 8 ends actually, so it was a good job of reading Trickery Treat first, because that's set 5 months after the events of the Season 8 finale, whereas this one does pick up a few years later. The Charmed ones haven't really been using too much of their powers or had to use much of their powers for a while, and they seem to miss their calling. And it's a little bit of a tired theme that we've seen a couple of times in certain episodes of Charmed, where they're being like, oh, we're going to retire our charmed, sorry, I'm a little bit tipsy. We're going to retire our charmed profession, give up the power of 3 to lead a normal life, and then realize that they're a little bit bored by it. I'm pretty sure that has happened a couple of times. Season 8 felt like everyone was ready to move on, in all honesty. So this did continue that, and I guess it did feel like it. I wasn't the biggest fan of the art style half the time, but it was still readable and still enjoyable. And I feel like some of it was quite fan servicey, and you do see the return of some familiar people. I mean, the art style isn't bad at all. It's just, it's charmed, you know? It's just weird when it's charmed. Charmed is charmed. You know what charmed is when you say it. And yes, even though this is the continuation of Charmed, it's not 100% Charmed because it's not Holly Marie Combs. It's not Rose McGowan. It's not Alyssa Milano. It's not Shannon Doherty. You know, it's like, but we're never going to get an original Charmed cast reunion, so these kinds of continuations is the next best thing, I suppose. Just like the Charmed books, which I'm so glad I read. So I can tick off the Summerween prompt, which was to read a graphic novel. I can tick that one off now, and I've completed all 5 of the prompts. The power of 3, more like the power of 5. So I read Soul of the Bride for the Read a Book in the Dark prompt. I read Between Worlds for the Read a Book with orange or black on the cover. I read Hurricane Hex for Read a Thriller, which I definitely did stretch for that one. I read Trickery Treat to read a book set during the fall, and I read Charmed Season 9 Volume 1 for read a graphic novel. So who's the best witch in all the land? I am. I put my entire Charmed Dussy into Summerween this year, and I couldn't be prouder. And I have to thank you guys for watching. I have to thank my patrons for supporting and just being all round incredible people. Let me geek out on my favourite TV show of all time, which is something that I always love to do. And without you guys, I would be nothing. So thank you so much. Yes, I'm getting emotional because I'm on the wine. I do also want to give a huge thank you to Gabby and Liv for hosting an incredible round of Summerween yet again. It's honestly one of the best readathons to bring this community together, and I just appreciate you guys so much. Anyone who partakes in Summerween, you guys make it so magical. We're all charmed ones. So again, thank you so much everyone for watching my video. I really appreciate it, but don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And I hope I will see you in the next video. Blessed be.